we've got Paul Bullard. He's the product director at SFG20, and he's going to talk to us about how to use technology to make buildings safer and more collaborative. Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here today, and it's great to be talking about maintenance at an FM conference. We seem to have moved away from this discussion over the last so many years. I mean, when I first dropped into facilities management back in '97, everything was hard services. There was so much focus on the actual asset, the building, the fabric, and that's changed dramatically in the last 7 years. And I think today, what I'd like to talk to you about is the company I work for now, SFG20, are on an incredible journey, and I'm so excited to be part of that. And I'm going to share with you some of the insights into the journey we've been on, but also hopefully things will resonate with you and your organisations on the learnings we've taken along the way. So, as I said, I've been in the industry quite a while now, and earlier I think Martin put out the challenge about look at the diversity of facilities, because we were just focused on offices at the time. And one of the best examples I can have is so many years ago, one week I was delivering a CAFM system to a large hotel on the Palm in Dubai. It was for the grand launch, I'm sure you all know the one. The following week I was at Yorkshire Water Sewage Treatment Works implementing the same system. And I think we in FM really appreciate that diversity, and it's an opportunity that as a tech provider I've had over the years when I'm recruiting, because the industry is so diverse. And being FM, we are the front line of that industry. We are out there. So we are working when it's the Olympics, or when it's a large football match, or an event somewhere, or it might be a conference as Excel. FM is paramount to the success of that event. And I don't think many other industries give people that opportunity. So my previous is that I've been in product director at SFG20 for the last year. Prior to that, I was in the facilities management software industry, and I've implemented many different systems across the world and worked with lots of you. It's great to see so many of you here today. And in actually making your facilities operation better with the technology that we added. So SFG20. Now, SFG20 began back in 1990. Originally, it was a means to produce a standard for maintaining assets within a facility. So at the time, there was lots of different ways of doing it, and this was about bringing things together so that we had a recognisable way of carrying out maintenance so that we could compare apples and apples. It also brought in things like legislation and the things we need to do in our buildings, the things we need to do to keep people safe, and also to oblige to the law. So SFG20, though, I've found is so much more than just the standard. It's more than just that set of requirements that you need to deliver to deliver your maintenance. It's more than just a set of written instructions that your engineers go out to carry out work. Of course, it's focused on safety, and of course, it's focused on meeting those legislation requirements. And at SFG20, there's a whole team of people, technical authors, who are constantly researching legislation to make sure that the guidance that goes out is correct, proper, and also meets the gaps in legislation, as legislation tends to do. It doesn't always tell you exactly, it tells you must maintain something. It may not tell you how often or what you should do. And we're filling in the gaps with the help from the British standards and from manufacturers and from other trade associations. We're pulling that into a place so that you're able to actually put that into your FM systems. I think the key word on the screen now, though, is adaptability. And where we've seen FM absolutely excel, particularly since the COVID pandemic, was the ability to change on a sixpence. And we're hearing that today. We're hearing there's a variable in when are people going back to work. Some organisations sending people back. Some organisations are, what should I say, trying to compete more in the market, in the employment marketplace, and trying to keep that flexibility as an option. But that really changes how we need to look after our facilities. So when we look at maintenance, the important thing we need to consider is what's actually right for our building. How are we going to get the best from our building? So we need to look at, first of all, how we're classifying our assets, how we're going to carry out maintenance, what's our maintenance strategy. So in terms of things like, does our building say we need to check all of the fire extinguishers on a particular floor? Would that be enough for one work order from our CAFM system? Probably, but possibly if it's a small building, not necessarily. And if it's the Burj Khalifa, we need to completely look at how we're doing that. So when we're talking about maintenance strategy, though, it's really understand what our building's for. What's the purpose? So if it's a school, you want to keep your boilers up, because when a boiler goes down, we have to send the kids home. If it's a hospital, our operating theatres and our public areas are critical. There's all different types of maintenance that we need to carry out in each area. That drives the operational risk around the maintenance that we set up. And when you're applying a standard like SFG 20, it's not a blanket, this is what you do, this is how it is across all verticals. It's really important you understand the criticality, and the red, amber, green categorisation that SFG 20 is really well known for, as in what you must do, what you should do, and what you can do, applies very differently depending on your facility. And it's really important to get that right, template it up. If you're an FM service provider, that's great. You can have different models for those different types of verticals that you enter into, and no doubt you do, selling different levels of regimes, but you need the ability to create that, apply it, and then that forms part of your contracts. So moving on to the Building Safety Act, there's been a real drive as to the irrefutable proof, as it says on here, but evidence in what you're doing, keeping that golden thread of information. And when we talk about a golden thread, that's about capturing data of where the building came from, where the assets are from, the maintenance we carry out on those assets, the breakdowns of those assets, the competency of the people. There's a lot about the importance of data. And I think FM, we really need to step up our focus on keeping that data good and proper. I mean, when I was working in the facilities management software area, it was amazing how many times that a company would buy in a facilities management software package, and the reason they're buying it in is because the old system's not working. Now, the old system's not working because the data's been left to its own devices. People have put in different types of names for assets and all these different things. But when they do the migration, they take the old data and put it into the new system. And you're starting with that poor benchmark. And I think it's up to us to really encourage, when we have those opportunities, let's look at our data, let's make sure the data's correct, and let's make sure, even when we're capturing data, so when the engineers in the field are using mobile devices, are they truly capturing the real timings of the work they're doing, or are they still under the threat of Big Brother's watching me, so we're not getting that real information in? And I was even talking to someone very prominent in facilities management, the government area, the other day, and he said, we know that our engineers go back to their area and they sit there and they just mark every job as completed now. Yes, the job's signed off, yes, it's been checked, but we're missing those little bits of important values of data. So when we're talking about this massive data we have, how much of it is correct and what can we do about it to move that forward? Now, digital-driven maintenance is something that I've found people have different opinions on what it actually is. And it probably depends on who's trying to sell to you and what they've got to sell. But a digital-driven maintenance on one side really looks at the whole design process, building a BIM model, and actually having that BIM model then drive the maintenance information that's then produced out of that model. We may have some challenges on the suitability of that data, and even though we're many years since BIM was originally mandated, that hasn't been solved yet, but we're on the way. And part of that's going to be to do with different standards getting together and creating proper mappings for their standards, such as SFG 20, such as NRM 3, such as Uniclass. actually bringing those together and actually providing the ability for people to do that easily. The other side of digital-driven maintenance is sensors. And I think someone said earlier that sensors have been in buildings for many years. We've had building management systems ever since I've been in industry. And we haven't made use of that data. But maybe some of the standards have not held that back, but given that a challenge in that the standards are very focused around people checks, so visual inspections. So at SFG 20, we're taking that standard forwards. We're bringing in the augmentation of digital maintenance into the SFG 20 standards so that if we prescribe a visual check, yes, we can still send someone along to actually say that's correct, we do need to do that. Or maybe there's some metrics that we can take from the BMS or from sensors that means that we don't necessarily have to carry out that check this month, especially if the task is a green or perhaps even an amber, depending on your operational risk I explained earlier. So then navigating the journey, and all this ties into our many systems we use in facilities management, and it's a real ideal for us, as in SFG 20, that as many people use our content as possible, that the work that all the technical authors do in producing this good and proper instructions and guides naturally flows through to all the downstream CAFM systems and mobile devices that the engineers use. We need to make that as easy as possible. We need to break the data down so it's far easier for these systems to consume, and that's what we've been doing and delivering under the Facilities IQ product. We believe it's a great opportunity for industry to make better use and easier use. And then that really comes into the next subject about being current, because the SFG 20 standard is updated constantly. As legislation changes, the standard will be updated, new instructions will be issued. A lot of use in the field is unfortunately point in time. If people are using PDFs or people are using the printed book as it was in the old days, or if people are using even imported into a CAFM system, it's really important that as those updates come through, that those updates are discussed with you and your client or your service provider, and then those updates applied. And I know that's been a challenge, and we have moved the product and the new digital platform that we have forward. So now even modified schedules, so where you're adapting them to your own facility, the updates flow through, and that can be a seamless process entering your CAFM system for your engineers to receive. So then, accessible collaboration. So as I said earlier, it's our intention that as many people access SFG 20 as possible. And to do that, we've had to look at how everything's licensed. We've also got to look at how everything's provided and those digital tools that enable you to consume that information. It's also great that if you're using the standards we spoke earlier and actually making specific changes for your facility, that you're able to then share them with any third-party provider or your internal staff as you see fit. It's your data, that's your information for your site, you should be in control. The other side of this is where we start looking at AI, and we've had some really good examples of AI. Where we see it at the moment is AI can also be a real means to how you are presented with data. I think we're all fond of pushing mobile apps to people and giving them different ways of accessing different types of products. But do we always present the information in the way that they can really understand and access? And that's where we see a real game changer with AI being able to tailor that information for individuals and make it very accessible to them in an expedient manner. Okay, everything I've spoken about today, we have available in our e-guide that you can download. No doubt this presentation will be sent out. Other than that, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the conference.